nasa material world ka. Sa Hindu kasi, naniniwala sila na ang nirvana ay marireach lamang ng Atman o ng tao kapag nagkaroon to ng union with Brahman or with union with their God. Okay? Samantalang sa Buddhism, pwede mo siyang ma-reach kahit nandito ka sa material world. Okay? So, sino ba si Siddhartha Gautama? So, he was the son of the chief of the Sakyas, a small tribe of the Himalayan foothills. So, there was a soothsayer who actually prophesied that Siddhartha Gautama will become either a universal emperor or a universal teacher. Magiging universal teacher lamang si Gautama, Buddha, kapag na-encounter niya daw yung 4 signs. Pero before, 3 signs lang daw yon, sabi sa History of Indian book na nabasa ko. So ano yung 3 signs na binabanggit dito ng soothsayer? Yung old man, sick man, dead man, and yung ascetic man. So napakahalaga nung 4 na encounter na yan ni Siddhartha para maging universal teacher siya. So yung father niya, the king, and also the queen, they wanted Siddhartha to become a universal emperor. Okay, so ang ginawa nila, ni-reared nila si Siddhartha away from pleasure, away from sufferings. So, he was isolated to the point na hindi niya nakikita yung any forms of misery sa society. Wala siyang conception ng death, wala siyang maayos na conception of death, ng disease, and even misery. Spirits tried to protect him from knowing about poverty, hunger, sickness, and death by seducing him with every imaginable delight. But Siddhartha was not content. So, si Siddhartha Gautama po during that time, he was isolated. He was insulated from any forms of sufferings and misery of this world. So, masasabi natin based on this account na before maging Buddha si Siddhartha Gautama, he practiced yung tinatawag nating hedonism. Okay? And sa account sa libro ni Soksho, sinasabi sa atin ni Soksho na si Siddhartha Gautama ay isang womanizer even before. He was a womanizer and at the same time, a hedonist. Okay? So ano nga ulit yung hedonism? Ito yung attempt natin to maximize pleasure. Okay? Dahil ang pleasure ay nakukonceive natin as a good. At tinatry nating i-minimize yung pain or to eliminate pain as much as possible. Kasi ang pain ay nagkukos ng suffering and ang suffering ay nakukonceive natin as something that is evil. Okay? So, during that time, sinasabi sa atin ni Soksho sa kanyang mga write-ups na si Siddhartha Gautama ay womanizer. Maaga din nagpakasal si Siddhartha. At the age of 16, he married his cousin, Yasudhara. Siguro, pwede ninyong sabihin na, ma'am, incest, ibig sabihin, napaka-unethical nung practice nila before. Hindi nyo pwedeng i-account na incest and unethical. Kasi kapag ginawa nyo yun, then, makakomit kayo ng fallacy. Kasi kung titignan natin, kahit naman sa Christian, di ba, sa Christianity, kay Adam and Eve lang din tayo nag-start. So basically, ang entire humanity ay isang malaking produkto ng incest. Pero ngayon kasi sa society natin, hindi na unethical na siya kasi meron ng mga scientific study na nagsasabi sa atin na hindi natin pwedeng i-practice yung incest dahil nakaka-apekto ito sa genetic makeup. So nakaka-apekto to dun sa tinatawag nating gene pooling. Kaya hindi na siya permissible today. At hindi siya permissible today kasi masyado nang populated yung mundo. Okay? So, ito lang naman, ito yung sinasabi ko din kanina, nakita niya nung, ay hindi ko pala sinabi kanina. Meron siyang moment na with the help of Chana, the faithful charioteer of Siddhartha, nakalabas siya doon sa palasyo. And nung nakalabas siya doon sa palasyo, nakita niya yung 4 signs. One day, as he was driving round the royal park with his faithful charioteer Chana, he saw an aged man in the last stages of infirmity and decrepitude. Actually, is God who had taken this disguise in order that Siddhartha Gautama might become a Buddha. Siddhartha asked Chana who this repulsive being was, and when he learned that all men must grow old, he was even more troubled in mind. This was the first sign. And the second came a little later in the same way in the form of a very sick man covered with boils and shivering with fear. And the third was even more terrible, a corpse being carried to the cremation ground, followed by the weeping mourners. But the fourth sign brought hope and consolation, a wandering religious beggar clad in a simple yellow robe, peaceful and calm with an inward joy. On seeing him, Siddhartha realized where his destiny lay and set his heart on becoming a wanderer. So, ito yung fourth sign na nakita niya. At ito yung later on magde-develop ng kanyang Four Noble Truths. So, at first, he begged his food as a wanderer. So, umalis si okay. And so, nagbe-beg lang siya ng food as a wanderer. And he lived the life of a forest hermit. Okay? Sa India, marami pong tinatawag na forest hermit.
Ma'am, may nagpapa-accept po.
And then he joined the 5 ascetics who were practicing the most rigorous self-mortification. Mm-hmm. Oh no. Okay. So, ayan. So he joined the 5 ascetics who were practicing the most rigorous self-mortification in the hope of wearing away their karma and obtaining the bliss. During the classical era po, marami pong forest hermit na naniniwala doon sa tinatawag nilang black magic, similar to doon sa tinatawag nating shamanism. And yung mga forest hermit na yan, ay naniniwala sila na through self-mortification or subjecting themselves into an extreme pain and violence, self-destruction, they would obtain karma. Okay? They would able to obtain nirvana. Sorry. So, nagpa-practice sila ng extreme self-mortification. And for 6 years, Siddhartha was actually torturing himself until he was nothing but a walking skeleton. So, even si Siddhartha, naging subject siya doon sa ganitong practice. And then, he realized that these fast and penances had been useless. So, sinubject niya kasi yung sarili niya sa extreme fasting. And then later on, na-realize niya na kailangan niyang i-provide yung basic needs ng kanyang body in order for him to obtain the nirvana. And then for 49 days, he sat under the Bodhi tree or yung tinatawag nating petal tree. Si Siddhartha, he was later on established yung Buddhism, and then yung difference lang ng Buddhism doon sa Hinduism, kanina binanggit natin yung four concepts na magkatulad sa Hinduism at sa Buddhism. Ang pinagkaiba lang naman ng Buddhism at sa Hinduism, yung mga Buddhists, they rejected Hindu's concept of caste system. So sa Hindu, naniniwala sila doon sa theory of interconnectedness at hindi nila tinatanggap yung social hierarchization na iniumpose sa Hinduism. So ito po, yung after extreme practice of asceticism, so sabi dito, we must stop worry about others think of us and quit trying to impress people if we are ever to find wisdom. So this is one of the teachings ni Siddhartha after nung extreme indulgence niya sa asceticism. And then he mentioned that asceticism or self-denial can be a value of temporary corrective for indulgences as a momentary cleansing, but it is not an adequate way of life. So, kung titignan natin, ito yung similar doon sa Christianity na practice na yung fasting ay nadidim siya as necessary for a temporary corrective for indulgences or momentary cleansing of the soul. Pero hindi ito enough na mechanism in order to attain good life. That is both for Christian believers and as well as for Buddhists. So, may tatlong realities sa Buddhism. Yun yung tinatawag nating impermanence or yung sinasabi nila na everything is subject to constant flux, di ba? And then, sabi nila, suffering is something that is inevitable. Hindi natin maiiwasan. So, yung number 3 is yung notion of egolessness. Ang piniprescribe sa atin ng mga Buddhists is we have to annihilate our ego. Kasi everything is interconnected. And we are just part of the grand design. Okay? Dapat hindi tayo masyadong nakafocus doon sa ego or sa self natin. Kaya yung pinaka-basic na ethical notion na correlated sa Buddhism ay yung notion of compassion. So, these 3 realities can be summarized to this. Sabi niya sa Buddhism, although nothing less suffering is everything and me that suffer isn't even real. So, may 4 noble truths in Buddhism. Number 1, that you can deny that suffering is the condition of all existence. This is known as the truth of suffering or the dukkha. That old age, sickness, that this causes pain and suffering to man. Number 2 is yung tinatawag nating samudaya or yung there's an origin of suffering. The truth of the origin of suffering. And according to Buddhists, suffering and the general dissatisfaction come to human beings because they are possessive, greed, and above all, self-centered. Okay? So bakit tayo nagsasuffer for Buddhists? Nagsasuffer tayo it's because of our cravings and our desires and our pleasures. Okay? Most of the time, nagsasuffer ka because you cannot moderate your desires. Diba? And aside from that, sabi din ng Buddhist sa ibang teksto, kaya ka nagsasuffer, it's because of the lack of knowledge. Because you are ignorant. So, you are ignorant about the nature of realities, that everything is subject to change. May gets niyo po ba? Lahat ay nagbabago. Lahat ay nag-change. So basically, hindi ka pwedeng maging possessive kapag alam mo na lahat ay nagbabago. Kasi kapag masyado kang possessive, nagiging obsessed ka, subject sa constant flux. At hindi mo pwedeng i-possess yung mga bagay na gusto mong i-possess. Dahil kahit yung mga yun ay subject for deterioration, subject to change. But pag masyado kang obsessive, nagiging possessive ka, masyado kang possessive, kapag nawala sa yung mga bagay na gusto mong i-possess, masasasaktan ka, mas nagsasuffer ka. Okay? Hindi ka rin pwedeng maging self-centered kasi nga everything is interconnected. At dapat maintindihan natin na lahat ay dapat maintindihan natin na bahagi lang tayo ng tinatawag nilang grand design. So, next is yung truth of the cessation of Nirutya. Cessation or Nirutya. Or sinasabi sa atin ng Buddhism that there is a possibility for us to liberate ourselves from suffering. And sabi niya, egocentrism, possessiveness, greed can, however, be understood, overcome, and rooted out. We can overcome it and rooted it out through Buddha's prescription, by following Buddha's prescription on how to end human suffering. And Buddha's prescription focuses on the middle path, similar to Aristotle and to Confucius. Naniniwala sila na in order for you to attain good life, you have to stay at the middle. Okay?
Ma'am, may
And this
papasok
rooting
daw po, ma'am.
Okay. And this rooting out, this vanquishing can be brought about by following a simple and reasonable eightfold path of behavior in thought, word, and deed. So sabi sa atin ng Buddhist, malalagpasan natin yung pagiging egocentric natin, yung pagiging possessive natin, at malalagpasan natin yung ma-overcome natin yung suffering natin by simply following the eightfold path. So ano yung eightfold path ng Buddhism? So yung number one, the right understanding or view. First, you must see clearly what is wrong. For example, yung pagiging egocentric mo. Ano yung mali sa pagiging egocentric? Okay? And next is yung right purpose. Next, you must decide what you want to be cured. Na-conceive mo na mali yung pagiging egocentric kasi you owe something to other people and other beings, for instance. So, it is a commitment to cultivate the right attitudes. So, na-perceive mo na yun, you have to cultivate the right attitude to overcome egocentrism. And then, right conduct, you must act. Ang prescription sa atin ng Buddhist is we have to refrain from killing, refrain from stealing, refrain from lying, and refrain from overindulgence to sensual pleasure. So, ito yung iniiwasan natin for Buddhists. Pero kung egocentric ka, yung pinaka dapat mong gawin is you have to avoid overindulgence, perhaps in sensual or bodily pleasure. Next is the right speech. Speak so to aim at being cured. So, for Buddhists, we have to be keen doon sa mga words na lumalabas sa bibig natin, or sa mga words na ipinapublish natin. So, for Buddhists, we have to avoid slandering, avoiding slander, gossip, and abusive speech. Ito yung suggestion sa atin. Ito yung nire-require sa atin ng Buddhists. We have to avoid slander, gossip, and abusive speech. Na nakikita natin na dominant in practice in social media. Next is yung right livelihood. Your livelihood must not conflict with your therapy. So avoid making a living in ways that cause harm, such as exploiting people or animals. So napakaganda ng Buddhism kapag titingnan ninyo kasi hindi niya pinipermit yung exploitation ng people at saka ng animals. And then, right effort, the therapy must go forward at staying speed. That is a critical velocity that can be sustained, di ba? So, kapag may right effort tayo, we have to, in order for us to maintain yung right amount of effort na i-invest natin sa ginagawa natin to achieve our goal, we have to cultivate this positive state of mind. Okay? Kasi pag hindi positive yung state of mind mo, hindi mo napapansin na yung effort na inilalagay mo doon sa, yung effort na ginagawa mo to achieve your goals ay medyo nadi-diminish. Next is the right mindfulness. You must think it incessantly, develop awareness of body sensation, feelings, and the state of mind. So kung egocentric ka, lagi mong i-scrutinize yung sarili mo. Lagi mong i-re-examine yung sarili mo para magkaroon ka ng full awareness kung ano yung nararamdaman mo towards sa ibang tao or mas naiintindihan mo yung human behavior mo, yung behavior mo. Next is right meditation. Learn how to contemplate with a deep mind, developing the mental focus necessary for this awareness. So, ito yung, I think, very essential, particularly now, kasi masyado na tayong madaling ma-distract, lalo na maraming temptations. Sa cellphone pa lang, marami na tayong pwedeng gawin, di ba? So, madalas na tayong nadidistract ngayon. Pero para sa mga Buddhist, napakahalaga na i-develop natin yung mental focus natin. And next is yung 5 precepts. Siguro ito yung nakaangkla sa ethics nila. Na first, I have to accept the rule of no killing or hurting any living creature. Ang Buddhism po ay isa sa pinakakilalang non-violent religion. Okay? Number 2 is accept the rule of no stealing. I accept the rule of no wrong indulgence in sexual desires. So, kung isa kang lay, ibig sabihin, you should avoid adultery and or concubinage or any forms of illicit relationship. So, kung in relationship ka na, hindi ka na pwedeng magkaroon pa ng another affairs sa iba. Kasi para sa Buddhist, it's a form of violation. Okay? And then, I accept the rule of no lying and I accept the rule of no use of intoxication. So, medyo idea yan. Kasi bawal uminom masyado ng alak. Hindi, bawal talaga uminom ng alak, sorry. Bawal uminom ng alak sa kanila, bawal magsinungaling, bawal kang mag-engage sa illicit sexual relationship, di ba? Which is good. Bawal magnakaw. So, basically, bawal maging corrupt. And at the same time, bawal kang manakit ng any living creature. So, yung dasa sila naman nila, ito yung sinusunod ng mga monghe. So, yung 5, yung similar din doon sa sinusunod ng mga lay. Yung kanina. I accept the precept to refrain from harming living being. I accept the precept to refrain from taking what is not given, do not steal. I accept the precept to refrain from evil behavior in passion. Kung monghe ka, celibacy. So, bawal talaga yung sexual activities. Kapag lay ka, bawal nga mag-commit ng adultery, concubinage, and other illicit sexual relationship. And number 4, I accept the precept to refrain from false speech. And number 5, I accept the precept to refrain from alcoholic drinks which causes carelessness. Number 6, I accept the precept to refrain from eating at forbidden times. Example, yung midday. Number 7, I accept the precept to refrain from dancing, singing, music, and dramatic performances. So they do not participate in the worldly amusement. And number 8, I accept the precept to refrain from the use of garlands, perfumes, unguents, and jewelry. Number 9, I accept the precept to refrain from the use of high or broad bed. And number 10, I accept the precept to refrain from receiving gold and silver. Kaya kung titignan ninyo, kapag nakakita kayo ng mga monghe, napakasimple lang nila. Wala silang ornaments sa katawan nila. And usually, nanlilimos lang talaga sila. Okay, and next is yung tinatawag nating nirvana. Nirvana is the annihilation of ego, or a state of emptiness or nothingness. It is the state of bliss, or a pure consciousness that leads us to, or a state of pure consciousness that leads to release from suffering while remaining conscious. Okay? Sa libro ni sa interview ni Dalai Lama, sa interview ng 14th Dalai Lama, he mentioned na yung nirvana is something that can only be experienced by the Buddhists, but it cannot be fully explained through words. Okay? So, ano yung mga central sa Buddhist teachings? Number 1 is you have to overcome your unruly desire. Kaya yung prescription niya is the middle path. Or yung iba makikita niyo is middle way. And number 2, through right thinking and living, we could obtain happiness. Similar kay Aristotle, kung papansinin niyo, kasi kay Aristotle, itong thinking and living has to do with reason, diba? So through thinking, right thinking and living, we could obtain happiness. And ang Buddhists ay naniniwala sila sa notion of free will, that we have the power to control our that we have the power to control our thoughts, attitudes, and behaviors. Okay? And if that is the case, we have to be reminded that every time that we change our habit, it can actually trigger a change of mind, which will trigger a change of heart. And naniniwala sila sa notion of karma, or the law of causation. And naniniwala sila na yung death ay inevitable, inescapable, so hindi dapat tayo masyadong nagmo-mourn doon sa death kasi natural to. And naniniwala sila na lahat tayo ay interconnected. Okay? Meron po ba kayong questions with regards to Buddhism?
Wala naman po.
Wala po, ma'am.
Okay. Salit na lang to, bibilisan ko lang. Para matapos na tayo. I will share the PPT. Tas, para magamit ninyo if necessary. Next is yung kay Confucius naman tayo. So, yung Confucian ethics naman po, it is focused on the proper conduct of man in society and centered on the cultivation of human virtues. And he was born in 551 BC. Kasama rin po siya sa isang royal family before, pero nung pumunta sila doon sa nung nag-move sila doon sa state of Lu, nakaranas din ng different forms of impoverishment si Confucius kasi maagang namatay yung kanyang ama, and he was reared by his mother. And then, at the very young age po, nag-start na mag-work si Confucius. At the age of 19, nagpakasal na din siya. And at the same time, yun din yung age kung saan naging keeper of grain siya. And then, so ibig sabihin, nag-start siya sa pinakamababa, sa keeper of grain. And then, later on, nung nakita ng government ng China na maayos yung kanyang work, naging in charge siya sa public lands. And then later on, naging prime minister siya ng Lu. Nung naging prime minister ng Lu si Confucius, yun yung isa sa pinakamataas na posisyon sa China. Maraming state sa China ay masyadong natitretan sa development na nangyayari sa state of Lu. So, ang ginawa nila para ma-constrain yung development sa state of Lu, nagpadala sila ng mga female dancers and musicians. And nung time na nagpadala sila ng hundreds of female dancers and musicians, maraming members ng or official members ng state of Lu ang nakalimutan nila yung state affairs. At nag-focus sila doon sa pagiging nag-focus sila doon sa mga babae at saka doon sa pleasure. So, nung nangyari yon, sobrang disappointed si Confucius at nag-resign siya sa kanyang posisyon at nagtayo na lamang siya ng school niya. Tapos yung school niya, it's known as the School of Literati, ay nakafocus to doon sa writing, mathematics, music, ritual, archery, and charioting. At ang focus ng school nito ay ma-develop yung character ng mga estudyante na possibly maging emperor ng China. At merong strict na standard sa parang standard requirement si Confucius sa education na hanggang ngayon ay nagpiprevail pa rin sa China. At yung kay Confucius is a teacher-centered education. Si Confucius po was known as the preserver of culture, sabi niya sa kanyang Analects, at sa libro naman ni Feng Yulans, it was mentioned that Confucius stated that he was a transmitter and not a creator, a believer in and a lover of antiquity. Confucius visioned himself as a preserver and a restorer of declining culture rather than as an inventor or creator of something new. Pero pag sinabi natin transmitter lang siya and lover siya ng antiquity, ang tinatransmit niya lang po na ideas and practices ay yung nanggaling doon sa Chu civilization. He was the preserver of Li, of the Chu civilization. Pag sinabi natin Li, it is the ritual propriety. Okay? Or mga proper ceremonials yan and proper etiquette na dapat i-perform ng tao. So, yung pinaka-focus nung ethical theory ni Confucius ay naka-angkla dito sa tinatawag nating rectifications of name. Hindi lang po yung ethics niya, kundi yung social philosophy niya at saka education, philosophy of education ni Confucius ay naka-focus lahat yan sa tinatawag nating rectification of name. For Confucius, a word without Tao was the result of breakdown of social institution of his time. It was Confucius' belief that the degeneration of political and social states originates from the top. And the only way to restore order would be to arrange the affairs that the emperor would continue to be emperor, the nobles to be nobles, and the minister to be minister, and the common people. That is, the actual must in each case be made to respond to the name. And this theory, Confucius called the rectification of name. This rectification must begin from the top because it was at the top that the discrepancy between actualities and the names had been originated. So, kapag siguro ang pinakatatandaan nyo lang, ito, sa rectification of name, you have to fulfill your assigned task. You have to perform it accordingly. So, let the ruler be ruler, the minister, minister, let the father be father, and the son, son. This is very important kasi kung titignan natin dito sa Pilipinas, kailangan i-rectify natin yung mga pangalan natin. Si President Duterte, kailangan niyang ma-rectify yung pangalan niya as a president. He has to be a father for this for Filipinos. At sa loob ng pamamahay, kung titignan natin, ang ama ay kailangang magpakaama, father to be a father, at yung nanay ay kailangang gawin niya or i-fulfill niya yung task niya bilang isang ina. Ganun din yung mga anak. At kung titignan natin, nagkakaroon ng disharmony sa society natin kasi hindi natin nagpe-perform yung mga assigned duties na makikita sa kung ano yung labels natin. For example, maraming professors na hindi nila nagpo-perform yung kanilang duty as a professor. Maraming estudyante na hindi nagpo-fulfill yung duty nila as a student. Lalo na ngayong pandemic, di ba? Maraming ina at saka magulang na hindi nila nagpo-fulfill yung duties nila as parents, di ba? At kapag nagkakaroon ng pag hindi natin napupulfill yung mga names natin or hindi natin yung assigned task sa atin or hindi natin na-rectify yung names natin, nagkakaroon ng disharmony sa society natin. Nagbi-breed to ng social injustices sa society natin. Okay? Kaya sabi ni Confucius, kahit na yung filial piety na lamang, it's a form of public service para kay Confucius. Sabi niya, personal development, cultivation happen in the context of human relationship. Okay? And filial piety is a manner in which one should act and relate with the other. And there was a question raised to Confucius. Someone asked Confucius saying, "Why, sir, are you not in public service?" The master answered, "Does not the shoe say concerning filial piety? Filial piety and friendliness toward one's brethren can be displayed in the exercise of public service. These qualities, then, are also public service. Why should only the idea of yours be considered as constituting public service?" So basically, tinitignan natin kasi pag sinabi natin public service, dapat yung mga empleyado ka sa government, di ba? Pero para kay Confucius, hindi dapat doon restricted yung definition ng public service. Kasi sabi, para sa kanya, kapag nagagawa mo yung obligasyon mo bilang ama, bilang ina, bilang anak, malaking benefits yung binibigay nito doon sa society. So, ibig sabihin, it's a form of public service na. Kasi for instance, kung may harmony sa loob ng family ninyo, hindi nasisira yung ibang family. Kung nagagawa mo yung duty mo bilang isang anak at hindi ka nagre-rebelde, hindi ka nagda-drugs, hindi ka nagnanakaw para lang ma-fulfill mo yung personal desires mo, may iwasan natin yung conflict doon sa society at large. Kung ang yung tatay ay nagpapakaama at hindi nangangaliwa or hindi nagkakaroon ng extramarital sex, i-ensure natin na merong harmony doon sa estado. Kaya naniniwala si Confucius na even yung relationship sa loob ng tahanan ay malaki yung tulong na binibigay nito sa society natin. At kung titingnan natin, di ba, ito yung magandang gamitin doon sa criticism sa Filipino culture na yung mga anak ay ginagawang form of investment ng kanilang magulang. Kay Confucius kasi hindi pwede yun. Kasi anak mo sila. So, hindi mo sila investment. Okay? Kasi kung gagawin mo yun, so ibig sabihin, hindi mo na-rectify yung name mo as a parents. So, ang objective ni Confucius is yung magkaroon tayo na maging superman tayo, superior man, or the gentleman, or the Junchu. So, ang Junchu, o yung virtuous person, the man of virtue for Confucius, merong tatlong bagay na binibear in mind. Una, yung will of heaven. Pangalawa, yung duty niya sa humanity. At saka yung pangatlo is yung uh, the rules of the wise man. Okay? So, yun yung tatlong pinakamahalaga para kay Confucius na dapat tatandaan ng isang individual. The will of heaven, his duty towards humanity, and yung next is yung the rules or the precepts of the wise man. And in contrast naman doon sa tinatawag nating Junchu ay yung tinatawag nating Shaoren, or it is literally translated as a small person. Yung Shaoren, he has the qualities of being trivial in mind and heart. He is egoistic and always thinks of his own welfare and interest. He is disrespectful and does not show any concern with others. So ayun, question, Shaoren ka ba? And next is, ano ba yung superior man talaga? Aside from dun sa una nating sinabi. So, para kay Confucius, ang superior man, meron siyang mga virtues na dapat mapossess. Sabi dito, the superior man takes righteousness as his basic stock, practices it with the rules of correct usage, or li, and bring it forth with modesty and renders it with complete sincerity, such is superior man. Superior man is that of a person who, having a genuine nature, can by means of it carry li into practice. So, napakahalaga ng konsepto ng righteousness kung yung isang superior man ay isang righteous at meron siyang proper conduct na yung alam niya yung right etiquette at kaya niyang i-perform yung rules of correct usage sincerely. Kaya sabi dito, kapag superior man ka, meron kang nature of genuineness dahil sincere ka. And at the same time, upright ka. And yung sincere and upright person lamang yung kayang mag-practice nung li. Okay? So ano ba yung uprightness for Confucius? Sabi niya, man's life is to be upright. To have an upright or chi, a man must neither deceive himself nor deceive others. He must give true outward expression to what his mind likes and dislikes. Chi is a quality to be prized, and there must be a code of proper names to put it into practice. So may mga proper conducts or etiquettes tayo na kailangan nating i-practice in order for us to obtain yung tinatawag nating in order for us to become upright. Yung uprightness is what comes from within. It is the direct expression of one's heart. The man who is upright acts according to his own feelings, whereas the man who is crook acts according to the feelings of the other. So, kung titingnan natin, yung uprightness is almost similar doon sa existential notion of authentic life. Na hindi mo dapat ginagawang i-deceive yung sarili mo or hindi mo ginagawang i-deceive yung ibang tao. This is essential dahil sa panahon natin na nauuso yung dissimulation. Okay? So, para mas maintindihan nyo, may case na present si Feng Yulan dito. Sabi ni Feng Yulan, when one owns family has no vinegar, it is permissible to refuse another man's request for it. But in the present case, the request was granted solely because it was feared that the person would not be pleased with the refusal. In so doing, the giver failed to be able inwardly to set himself his own standard, while at the same time he could not avoid betraying himself in order to retain the good opinion of another. Pushed to the extreme, such man becomes false and artificial, and his act is not called chi. So, for example, nagpupunta ka sa simbahan, tapos nagbibigay ka ng tithes and offerings, pero hindi naman bukal yung pagbibigay mo ng tithes and offerings. Para kay Confucius, huwag mo nang gawin. Kung ginagawa mo lang yan para magkaroon ka ng good impression sa iba, huwag mong gawin. Kasi hindi yan nagkukos para maging upright ka. Yung actions mo, it is false, artificial, and empty for Confucius. Okay? So kung tutulong ka, pero for the sake na magkaroon ka lamang ng makareceive ka lamang ng good comments from other people, wag mo nang gawin. That's for Confucius. Kasi false and artificial lang naman yung behavior mo. It doesn't make you upright. It doesn't make you good. Okay? So, like I said, parehas silang tatlo, si Aristotle, yung Buddhism, na meron silang konsepto ng golden mean. So, hindi tayo pwede mag-practice ng extreme asceticism at hindi tayo pwede mag-practice ng extreme hedonism. We have to moderate our we have to practice moderation. We have to moderate our own desire. Kasi si Confucius na recognize niya na meron talaga tayong mga bodily needs na kailangan nating i-gratify. So, ano yung tinatawag nating li o yung ritual propriety sa Buddhism? So, yung li ay almost synonymous siya doon sa pagiging polite at saka pagiging polite natin. So, yung li ay ito yun, yung li is something that really directs the li directs conduct for Chuang Tzu. Pero kung titingnan natin, ano ba yung li para kay Confucius? Ito yung all the rules for everything pertaining to human conduct may be included under the term li. Okay? So mga correct body yung li, ito yung lahat ng mga practices na meron tayo na nagdadirect sa conduct natin para maging virtuous person tayo. Okay? So, example nung yung pagmamano sa Pilipinas. So, para sa marami, we have to maintain yung practice ng pagmamano kasi ito yung nagpapakita ng pagrespeto natin sa nakakatanda sa atin. At bahagi ito ng kultura na meron tayo. Okay? Pero para kay Confucius, kung gagawin mo yan, pero hindi mo naman talaga nirerespeto yung tao, wag na lang. For Confucius, a man must have a nature of sincere genuineness before he may practice ceremonial and etiquette o yung mga li. If not ceremonial observances or li, if not ceremonial observances or li will be false or empty. And as such, are not only unworthy of being prized, but are actually cheapening. So, sinasabi lang sa atin ni Confucius na meron tayong mga proper etiquettes na dapat i-perform, di ba? I-practice. At may mga ceremonial ceremonial activities tayo as a Filipinos. May mga fiesta tayo, may mga Lenten season tayo kung saan may mga religious ceremonies tayong pini-perform na kailangan nating i-perform. Pero para kay Confucius kasi, kung hindi ka sincere or walang hindi genuine yung actions na pinapakita mo, wag mong gawin. Kasi false and empty yung form nun. And sabi niya, it's not only unworthy of being prized, but actually cheapening. So kung, gaya ng sabi ko kanina, isa sa mga practices natin, or isa sa mga kasama sa li natin, is yung pagmamano. Kung magmamano ka, pero hindi naman bukas sa loob mo, hindi ka naman sincere sa ginagawa mo. Wag mo na lang daw gawin. Kasi yung action mo, it is false and empty in form. Okay? Okay? So kung pupunta ka sa simbahan, kasi it's part of our diba, ritual propriety. Pero hindi mo naman ramdam na pumunta ng simbahan. Hindi mo naman talaga venerate ang Diyos. Huwag ka na lang pumunta. Kasi yung actions mo, it's false and empty. And it's unworthy to be, it's not, yung point nga, it's not being, it is not only unworthy of being prized, but are actually cheapening. So kung magdadasal ka para lang masabing nagagawa at napiperform mo yung duty mo sa Diyos, huwag mo na lang gawin. Kasi kung hindi ka sincere, basta huwag mo na lang gawin. That's for Confucius. And then, meron siyang Ren. Yung Ren naman, it has to do with human relationship. So, Ren expresses the ideal of cultivating human relation, developing faculties, cultivating one's personality, and upholding human rights. Okay. And it is also equivalent to the words as morality or virtue. Or sa ibang books, it's perfect virtue. It is a manifestation of genuine nature. So, meron kang genuine nature. Kinikilala mo talaga yung others. Nakikita mo yung value ng others. Acting in accordance with propriety based upon the sympathy for others. Okay? So, yung is we have to sympathize with the other. The man of Ren is the one who is desiring to maintain himself, sustain others, and desiring to develop himself develops others. So, ito yung sinasabi sa atin ni Confucius na lahat ng actions natin ay may malaking impact sa ibang tao. Kapag dinevelop natin yung sarili natin, mas nade-develop natin yung iba. Kapag hindi natin dinevelop yung sarili natin, nakaka-apekto din to doon sa stagnation ng iba. Ma'am, hindi if not right and proper, do not move. Okay. Ito, yun lang sinasabi. To insist of having no desires oneself at the same time, to be indifferent to the desires of the others is to be nothing more than a dried up ground. So, para kay Confucius, hindi tayo pwedeng maging extremely ascetic. At hindi pwede nating i-deny na yung pleasure, na meron tayong demand for pleasure. Pero for Confucius, similar to Aristotle, yan ang sabi ko, ang pinapropose niya sa atin is that we have to moderate our desire. We should avoid being indifferent to one's own pleasure. And para doon sa ritual propriety natin, sinasabi sa atin ni Confucius na in ceremonials, it is better to be simple than lavish. And in the rites of mourning, heartfelt distress is better than observance of detail. So para kay Confucius, kapag meron tayong mga ceremonial practices, like for instance yung marriage, for instance yung pag-Lenten season, yung mga ceremonial activities natin doon, o kaya kapag Christmas, kapag birthdays, 'di ba may mga ceremonial activities tayo. O kaya kapag 40 days, sabi ni Confucius, in ceremonials, it is better to be simple than lavish. And in the rites of mourning, heartfelt distress is better than observance of detail. Kaya kung titignan ninyo, ang naka-emphasize dito, kailangan sincere. Sincere tayo doon sa actions natin. Like for instance, in ceremonial activities sa Pilipino, masyadong lavish, masyadong extravagant yung mga activities natin during fiesta, for instance. Tapos minsan yung mga households, 'di ba? Meron din silang extravagant din yung mga inahanda nila during fiesta. But unfortunately, kinabukasan most of the households, 'di ba? Wala silang pera, wala silang makain kasi yung mga perang pinanghanda lang nila ay inutang lang naman talaga nila. Tapos naghihirap sila. So sabi ni Confucius dito, hindi naman masama yung maganda eh. It's just necessary that you have to provide only yung kaya mong i-provide. Okay? Kasi usually yung mga households naghahanda lang naman sila ng sobrang dami para ipakita na hindi sila naghihirap. Pero kay Confucius kasi hindi eh. Dapat medyo sincere ka sa sarili mo na ito lang yung kaya mong ihanda, ito lang yung kaya mong ibigay. Tapos kapag may mga mourning or may mga death, for instance, yung mga 40, di ba may mga 40 days or annual death celebration tayo. Sinasabi ni Confucius na pinakamahalaga pa rin doon yung heartfelt distress, yung nararamdaman mo. Hindi yung observance of details na kapag ganitong oras saka lang tayo magdadasal tapos mga hindi, yung pinaka valuable para kay Confucius is yung sincerity. Okay? So, ulitin ko lang po para kung sakaling hindi nyo napansin. Kay Confucius po, ang pinakatatandaan nyo lang po dito ay yung tinatawag niyang rectification of names. Doon po naka-angkla yung kanyang etika. And then, yung sa virtues naman, kinakailangan natin ng ren or yung ren ay tinatawag natin human-heartedness. So, dito nakafocus tayo doon sa human relationship natin. At para kay Confucius, nadidevelop natin yung ren, yung human-heartedness natin kapag nagagawa nating i-preserve yung human rights and human dignity of the other. And at the same time, kapag nagkakaroon tayo ng genuine interest for the welfare of the other. Okay? At yun yung pinakamahalagang virtue para kay Confucius. So we have, in order for us na magkaroon ng ren, we have to enhance or improve yung sympathy natin towards the other. Okay? Pero sabi ni Confucius, hindi mo makukultivate yung ren mo, yung virtue na yan, kapag wala kang li. Okay? At yung li is the ritual propriety. Yung ritual propriety na yan, ayun yung mga ceremonial activities and practices na meron tayo. Okay? Itong mga ceremonial practices, these are practices that directs our conduct to be, it directs our conduct. Diba? Like, yung pagmamano, pagdadasal ng ganitong oras, pagsisimba ng ganitong oras, those are ceremonial activities na nililid tayo kung paano ba maging mabuting individual. Okay. At para kay Confucius, sa lahat ng circumstances, may mga li or proper conduct na dapat tayong i-perform. Okay? Kapag kaharap natin yung mga kaibigan natin, iba yung performances or iba yung etiquettes na or ritual practices na dapat nating gamitin kapag sila yung kaharap natin. At iba yung etiquettes natin kapag kasama natin ay yung mga magulang natin. So, Lee. Pero kay Confucius, hindi lang Lee yung mahalaga, kundi mahalaga din yung tinatawag niyang sincerity. Sincerity. Kailangan mong maging sincere sa actions mo. Okay? Kasi pag hindi ka sincere, hindi mo na pa-practice yung Lee ng maayos. At pag hindi ka sincere, yung actions mo ay false and artificial in form para kay Confucius. And number 4, yung pagiging upright. Yung pagiging upright, dapat ginagawa mo yung action based on your own discretion and based on your own emotion. Hindi mo ginagawa yung isang actions because it is the thing na dinidemand sa'yo ng ibang tao. Okay? So basically, yun lang po. Para maging superior man ka, kailangan mo maging upright, kailangan mong mag-decide based on your emotion and based on your own discretion. Kailangan mong maging sincere sa actions na ginagawa mo at kailangan mong i-perform yung mga tamang etiquette at tamang ritual na piniprescribe ng society ninyo. But you have to perform it again with sincerity. You have to be genuine in your action. And next is you have to cultivate your ren. Kapag meron ka nitong 4 na ito, magiging superior man ka na for Confucius. But take note, sa lahat ng to, sabi ni Confucius, hindi mo magagawa yan kung wala kang wisdom. And kung wala kang courage. So, yun lang po. I think that concludes my presentation. Do you have question po? So, kung wala na po kayong questions, pwede na tayong mag-dismiss.
Thank you po, ma'am.
Thank you po.
Sige po.
Thank you po, ma'am.
Thank you po. Thank you po. Para makatulong sa inyo.
Thank you po, ma'am.
Bye-bye po.
Bye po.